All right, perfect. Sally, I'd love for you to just kind of take the floor and talk to us about what we can do to make sure we're safe out there in this real estate world.
This happens to be a topic that's very close to my heart. Maybe because I'm kind of a chicken, so I want to protect all of you. And I don't know, I can't see you, so I'm not going to ask for a raise of hands, but think about, have you ever been in a situation during a showing, during an open house, where you felt a little uncomfortable? Do you know that in 1 year, over 30,000 realtors reported being assaulted in some way, being attacked in some way, whether they were robbed or beaten. It also includes the people who were murdered. 23 realtors were murdered in 2022. I don't have the statistic from last year. I couldn't find it, but you know, you might say, oh, well, there's lots of realtors. That'll never happen to me. It could happen to you. So I really want to talk about today ways that you can keep yourself from being a target and protect yourself. So first thing is that you want to make sure you meet every buyer that you're going to work with, right? Before you start meeting them at houses. And I know it's not always possible to get them to come into the office. That's the ideal. But even if you could do a Zoom with them, because if someone is serious, they're going to take the time to at least have a Zoom call with you to discuss what their needs are. If it's somebody who's like, no, I just want to go to the house, you're taking a chance, or bring someone with you. I learned that early on in my career, that if I was ever uncomfortable and not sure, bring somebody with me. And sometimes I would laugh, and the person who I brought with me would laugh, because I had said, like, I don't like the sound of this person, I'm not sure. And up would pull this van with a family of children and a husband and wife. And, you know, they were obviously very non-threatening. So, but you got to use your gut. You got to use your gut. And so a couple things. You want to have people check in and find out who they are, where they live, get their phone number. I mean, some realtors ask to see the person's driver's license to just verify that they are who they say they are. That's up to you. The next thing is super easy. Always let somebody know where you're going to be and about when you think you're going to come back, because that way, if you don't show up, people will know hopefully where to find you. This is the time of year when it's starting to get dark pretty early. In the summer, you know, we can be out showing houses till 8 or 9 o'clock, but this time of year when it gets dark, I think you should think twice before going out and showing a house after dark, unless it's with people that you've been working with and you know them and you know that you're going to be safe. But definitely don't ever, ever, ever meet somebody at night at a house. Be very careful if somebody wants to see a vacant house. Again, I would recommend that you bring someone with you. And I might sound like I'm a real alarmist, but better safe than sorry. And, you know, sometimes realtors are targeted because our pictures are all over the internet, right? People can see us. And you're a pretty attractive crew out there. So you could be targeted because they think you're beautiful or handsome. And yes, guys get assaulted too. So be very careful about that. Never park in the driveway, because you could get parked in and would be unable to escape. So make sure that you're not supposed to park in a driveway anyway, because the homeowner is supposed to be allowed to have access to get in and out. But definitely don't do it. Park your car hopefully in front of the property. I recommend if you're going into a house to show the house, lock your bag in the car, ladies or guys, if you have a bag that you carry with you. Just bring your keys and your phone. And by the way, your key, if you have an actual key, not a little fob thing, can be a great weapon to defend yourself with if you need it. So think about that. Your key also has an advantage in that there's the button you can push that makes your horn start beeping. So, if you were being attacked and you can hit that button, hit the button and your car will start beeping. That will draw attention to the house, to where you are. I'm going through these quickly because I know we're short on time. Always make sure your cell phone's charged. There are, depending on what kind of cell phone you have, there are easy ways to make an emergency call. So you want to be able to do that, particularly if you're at an open house and maybe you start feeling uncomfortable. We have had several situations where one of our realtors has been doing an open house and somebody starts kind of hanging around and you start feeling a little bit uncomfortable, especially if it's getting towards the end of the open house. And so you want to have that phone. You want to even make a fake phone call and say, oh, you're coming here in about 15 minutes. Oh, that's great. I'll see you when you get here. Don't be afraid to just make something up if you have to. When you're doing an open house or when you're showing a house, you always keep the people in front of you. You are never leading the way, because you could be showing a house to someone and go first into the bedroom and they slam the door shut and you can't get out, and now you're that person's captive in the bedroom. Or it could happen in the basement. I recommend with a basement, unless you know the people and you're comfortable with them, don't take somebody down into a basement. You can tell them they can go down and look around. Don't put yourself in that situation, because basements typically do not have an exit except the stairs that you go up. So that's a potentially very dangerous part of the house. You should be very careful often towards the end of an open house, because there are groups of criminals, I guess we'll call them, who go to an open house as a group, and one of them tries to distract the realtor while the other ones are looking for stuff to rob in the house. And by the way, always make sure you tell your homeowners to put anything of value away, hide it, or take it with them wherever they're going. But sometimes if a whole group comes, you might get confused, and even towards the end think, now did they all leave? Because they spread out and they start going in different directions, which, by the way, you always want to try to keep people together as a group. So you just want to make sure that somebody didn't sneak off into a closet or a room, and when you go to shut down the house, suddenly they appear. Always make sure, if you're not comfortable with the people, that you are not going into a room with no exit. And if, for example, you're doing a showing or you're doing an open house, always make sure you know where your exits are. There should, usually most houses have multiple ways to get out. So always be aware of that so that you can run. A lot of people say, oh, you should learn self-defense techniques, and that probably isn't a bad idea. Although many times your safest thing is just run away, get out of there as fast as you can. And so you have to decide, but be very careful, very, very careful. You should probably have a code with somebody. And here's what I mean by a code. Let's say you're doing a showing or doing, you know, an open house, and you suddenly feel like really uncomfortable. Say, excuse me, I need to make a call, and call someone that you've prearranged and say, hi, I just realized I need the red file. I'm at 123 Main Street. And that's their code, like, send help. I'm in trouble over here. So set somebody up with that. And, you know, don't be afraid to do that. Betty, I see you said you carry a taser and mace. I mean, many realtors do. There's also jewelry that has an emergency call button on it. So if you're a chicken like I am, you might want to look into that. Let's see. Trust your gut. You don't have a good feeling about somebody, you very well could be right. I can remember early in my career, and most of you at this point have been in the business for a little while, but especially for those of you who are new, when you're new, you're so anxious to have that first client and sell that first house. And I can remember a time when I was that new person and a call came in, and a person, this is back in the day when lots of calls used to come into an office because we didn't have computers yet. And anyway, a call came in and a man said that he wanted to see this house. Those of you who live in this part of the county might know the area. It's called Deer Haven, and it's in Mawa. And it's a private community in a very, very secluded spot. So I get this call to show a house in Deer Haven. And of course, I'm immediately excited. Oh, good, I have someone to show a house to. And my manager happened to be at the time, who was my manager at the time, happened to be in the office. And she said, Sally, what are you doing? You can't just run and show this house to this person you don't know, especially because you're going to a kind of secluded place. You have to get somebody to go with you. So my husband wasn't home, my sons weren't home. I finally got my nephew to go with me, who was like a senior in high school. But anyway, my nephew and I go driving out to this place. And when we get there, I get out of the car and I make a point of saying, I'm sorry if I kept you waiting. I had to pick up my nephew because I wanted to make sure he knew that I had somebody with me. And he said to me, oh, well, I don't want to see the house. And I said, you don't want to see the house? And I said, is this too secluded for you? And his answer was, no, it's not secluded enough. Talk about feeling like, fortunately, I was able to get in my car and drive away, and I never saw or heard from that guy again. I had another situation, and this is a trust your gut one, where a man had come into the office and he gave me this whole story about how he had been wronged and he was going to get all this money from a lawsuit. So he wanted to look at houses so that when he got the money from this lawsuit, he would be able to buy one. So I took him to a few houses and I realized this guy is kind of weird. And so when I got back, I said to my manager, I'm not going to call him or follow up with him. He gave me a weird feeling. So I'm just not going to reach out to him again. And I didn't. But he showed up again in about probably about 5 months later. And I just said to him, well, did you get the money? And he said, no. And I said, then there's no point in my showing you houses. So that's how I got out of showing him the house. Don't you know, about a month after that, I was watching TV one night and watching the news, and on the news flashes a picture of this person that I was creeped out by. And it turned out he had shot someone and was being arrested. So I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like I had really, maybe literally dodged a bullet with this guy. So please do trust your gut. Don't be afraid to take someone with you. Think about doing open houses with another person. There's safety in numbers. And get really good at showing a house in the right way, where you are always have the people in front of you, where you're not putting yourself in a situation where you can't get out of a room or a basement. And you have to be mindful of these things. So I could go on and on about this, but does anybody have any questions, or if someone wants to relate something that happened to them that they feel like they dodged a bullet?
Orly, go ahead, Orly.
Orly?
Yeah, I had a similar situation. It was very, very early on in my career. And, we used to do the Homes magazines with your picture on it. So, this was like a brochure for who do you want to basically rape or do anything to. So this guy calls up and he wants to see a vacant house in West Milford. And he said, but, and I said, well, we have other homes as well. And he said, no, mommy told me only to look at vacant houses.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
I mean, this guy was creepy, and I had made an appointment with him, and then I decided, no, I'm not going to go with him. So then when he called again, I told him that I was busy. I couldn't make the appointment, but Danny Beauvais in my office would be more than happy to show him. And sure enough, he canceled the appointment. And months later, 6 months later or so, the FBI called me, and it turns out that he had tried to assault a realtor in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
So just be very careful. And to Sally's point, I never go into basements either. Basement's a basement. Go show it to yourself. So there's been other incidents, but yeah, just be very careful, because I think the police once said that we are one of the top most vulnerable, dangerous businesses in the world. In fact, I also had another one. I had a man who called me, wanted a CMA. It was landline, so I didn't have his number. And he was very evasive about why he wanted to sell, like just not answering my questions, not being forthright. So I took my father with me, and my father was in the car, and he said, well, I'll come in about 10-15 minutes if I don't see you. So I'm going through the house with this guy, knowing my father, I knew he would come in. So I'm trying to rush the appointment, get out before my father blasts in. And lo and behold, I did not get the listing. And I said, I called him back and I said, I just wanted to know for my own edification what it was. He said, well, you were kind of awkward and you had this like weird energy, whatever. And I said to him, well, to be very honest with you, you were very evasive with your answers. You made me feel very nervous. It was a divorce, so that's why he was being very cagey. And he apologized. He said, I didn't realize, you're right. I did come off that way. And whatever. Didn't get the listing, but didn't get hurt either.
That's right. Wow, Orly, thank you for sharing. That is definitely more important. So we have 4 hands up. I want to honor those 4, and then we have to wrap up. So I'm going to go to Ashley.
I had something similar, like this was like the first rental I had ever done. I was hosting like pretty much like a rental open house, taking all the leads from an agent in my previous brokerage. And a guy came and he just like something seemed off, but I was like, I don't want to prejudge or anything, but like something just, I don't know, like he didn't say anything, but something just energy wise felt off. And then the next time I met him, he was with his wife and he seemed a little like aggressive in how he spoke to her. And I kind of made eye contact with her and something felt real off. And then he ended up calling me about putting in an application for a rental, and he got super aggressive on the phone, like very loud, wouldn't take the fact that I was like, said, hey, I got to write 2 offers right now. I will get to you in about like, just give me an hour or two. He wouldn't take it for an answer, kept pushing, kept pushing. And I looked him up online. I was like, let me just do a quick Google. Maybe he'll pop up. And he came up for lying on his nursing application for ever being charged with assault.
Mm. Mm.
And that is the reason why I have pepper spray on my bag, is because of him.
Of
I just
course.
got the
And
worst
don't
over the
hesitate
phone.
to
It was
Google
bad.
people.
That's right, Sally. Research people, Google them. I think you're absolutely right on that.
Yeah,
Wow,
we
Ashley.
use Forewarn now, our team. So if you have a phone number, you or a name, you can look them up and you can confirm if they actually live at the address they're saying they want you to list. It'll show records of where they've lived, so you know if they're lying, if they say they have a home and there's no record of them ever living in New Jersey. So Forewarn, I think it's like $20 a month. So our team uses that before we see anyone.
So can you throw that in the chat? I think that's something Renee is saying that's offered through NAR, FORWARN, Forewarn. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ashley. I got Kevin, Talika, then Tanae. What's up, Kev?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, long story very short. One of my mentees was doing an open house. She was actually doing an open house for me, and she said she had a funny feeling about this guy that kept calling and just asking weird questions. Long story short, um, when she told me that, I said, you know what? I have KJ, but I'm still going to come and just keep an eye out and just act like a regular client. And if he shows up, this guy was there almost an hour early in front of the house waiting for her. So when he when she opened the door, like he just rushed out the door to go meet with her. So then I jumped out and I'm like, hey, I'm also doing the open house with her. So I had the agent actually stay with KJ and I showed the house. He was very upset, very nasty. Um, Took the list and they took it, also took her card. So then he's following her on social media, basically stalking her, texting her like, hey, can you show me other properties? And she's like, sure. My mentor Kevin would love to show you some more things. And she's like, no, I don't want him. I want you. I want you to. He was very, very aggressive to where she had to end up blocking him on all social media.
Oh,
Wow.
Right.
wow.
And I was going to reach out to him, but I already knew he knew what I looked like. And it would put me in a situation to where I may have to hurt him. So I was just like, just block him and hopefully he never shows up. But I followed her to a couple of open houses after that. But it's very important that you let a male or you let someone know that you got to have somebody, which you have to.
Absolutely, man. Kevin, thank you for sharing that tale, a cautionary tale. Thank you so much. Talika, then Tanae.
Hi, David.
Hey.
I went to do a FISBO preview for a FISBO house, and I was in the basement with the couple, and they went to the HVAC room and they both locked the door. So that was one incident that scared. I shared this before as well. That scared me a lot. I still can remember their faces and the house forever. After that, I follow each and everything that Sally has told. She came to the call before, and I follow each and everything. So it's not that it can never be me. It's follow these instructions from whatever we learn from these calls, so that it's never us.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Talika. Tanae, what's going on?
Good morning, everyone. I just want to bring a different perspective to the conversation regarding cyber attacks. So I was a victim of a cyber attack, and it came through the way of my website, kw.com. So someone reached out to me. Oh, hi, I'm interested in seeing a place or whatever. Okay, I put them in my command, I put them in my contacts. I sent out regular emails we send out. They followed back, they responded to that email. Oh, hey, I've been trying to get in touch with you. I really want to see a place or whatever. I'm like, okay, great. Let's schedule a call. Let's schedule, a Zoom or whatever so I can, do the proper vetting and stuff. And they were very evasive and they were like, oh, well, I don't want to I don't feel comfortable with Zoom. Can I call you on WhatsApp? So that was the first red flag. And I was like, WhatsApp. I'm like, WhatsApp is most, international stuff like that. So I'm like, and I said, okay, all right, yeah. Call me on WhatsApp. But my flags were already up. Long story short, by that one communication, I screwed myself. It was a phishing hack. They got into my phone. They got into my bank. And I almost lost money out of my bank because they were able, from whatever I clicked on that email, they were able to get in my phone. And we all have smartphones. We all do a lot of our business on our phones, and they were able to get in. So I had to close on my bank accounts. I had to have a fraud investigation. And they found me online. I didn't call them. They weren't in any of our systems. And I'm thinking it's legit. And just that one click screwed me. So sometimes it's not always in person. These people are very clever. And the way that they are scamming online is unbelievable. So be very cautious of any request you get via emails and online posts.
Yeah, Tanae, I'm glad you brought that up. And Brenda, I'm coming to you in 1 second. On my TikTok, I had somebody actually hack my TikTok account. I shouldn't say they hacked it. They created one in my name, and they were downloading my videos and putting those videos up as if they were theirs. And one of my followers thought it was a new account. This guy started texting her. They were having communications and talking, and it turned into like invest in Bitcoin. And this guy ended up scamming her out of $2,500. And what? She ended up calling Sally looking for me. And Sally was like, no, I know David. He would never do that. And I ended up talking to the lady, and we got a hold of TikTok, and I was able to show them I was not that person by sending in my ID, and TikTok was able to cancel that account. But you guys got to be really, really careful out there. Especially like what Tanae was saying, if they're trying to move the conversation to some of these messaging apps like WhatsApp, red flag, because that's how they scam a lot of times. So if they're like, can we move this conversation here? It's an absolute no. And Betty's right on QR codes. Even some of the QR codes that we should be able to respect, people are putting overlays on some of those QR codes. So when you click it, thinking you're going to one website, it can be taking you somewhere else. So one thing I'm going to look into, and when I have the information, I'll share it with you guys, some fraud alerts, some, identity protection plans that we can get. So if something like that does happen, like what happened to Tanae, you can be protected, because we do live in a scary world. And now with all this AI technology, and then being able to take my picture and my voice and create a video that sounds and looks like me, it's really easy to troll and fool people. So we just got to be careful. And more importantly, like Sally said, trust your gut. If it doesn't feel right, err on the side of caution, right? Trust your gut. That's the biggest thing I will say that has served me well in my life, is trust in my gut. Sally, thank you so much for sharing this, because I know you shared it before, but it's something that we need to be reminded of. We all get super lax, right? After a while. So I think every year we should talk about realtor safety and bring this message back.
Yeah, think about the fact that when you do an open house, you are inviting the public to come into this house. It could be anyone. So be very mindful of the situation.
That's right.
You're putting yourself in.
Amen to that.
Have somebody with you at an open house, please. I beg people to do that.
That's right. Lenders, just another partner, a spouse, a son, a daughter, have somebody with you. All right, so we got to wrap up. I know we're a little over, but this topic was so important. I felt like let's push it past 9 o'clock a little. Brenda, are you still here? I'd love to hear your word of the day if you're still around.
Good morning.
What's up, B?
So here we go, guys. Convert all negative into a positive. All failures into success. All losses into profits. All type of feelings into useful attitude. Because remember, no one can destroy iron, but its own rust can. So likewise, no one can destroy a person than his own mindset. Have a great day.
All right. I love it.